The city was alive with the hum of nightlife, but the small apartment Y/N shared with Taehyung felt eerily quiet. She stood in the bathroom, staring down at the pregnancy test in her trembling hands. The 2 lines that had appeared were unmistakable: she was pregnant. A wave of mixed emotions crashed over her: joy, fear, and a deep sense of dread. Taehyung, the love of her life, was everything she had ever dreamed of. He was kind, passionate, and loved her with a depth that sometimes scared her. But his job, his dangerous, unpredictable job, had always been a source of anxiety for her. He worked for a covert operations unit, and every day he walked out the door, she feared it might be the last time she saw him. Now, with a baby on the way, that fear had grown into something more, a paralyzing terror that left her breathless. How could she raise a child knowing that any day, Taehyung might not come home? The thought was unbearable. She knew she had to protect her child, even if it meant making the hardest decision of her life. Y/N spent the next few days in a daze, her heart heavy with the decision she knew she had to make. Every time Taehyung looked at her with those loving eyes, it became harder to keep the truth from him. She could see the worry growing in his gaze, but she couldn't bring herself to tell him. Not yet. One evening, Taehyung came home late, his face tired but lit with a smile when he saw her. He pulled her into his arms, kissing her forehead as he held her close. "I missed you today," he murmured, his voice soft. Y/N forced a smile, but the knot in her stomach tightened. "I missed you too," she replied, her voice strained. Taehyung pulled back slightly, studying her face with concern. "What's wrong, Y/N? You've been so quiet lately. Is something bothering you?" She hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. She had to tell him, but the words felt like they would shatter everything. Finally, she took a deep breath and whispered, "I'm pregnant." For a moment, Taehyung stared at her, the shock evident on his face. Then, his expression softened, and a slow, joyful smile spread across his lips. "Pregnant," he repeated, almost as if he couldn't believe it. "We're going to have a baby?" Y/N nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Yes, but your job," his smile faltered, replaced by a look of understanding. "You're worried about me," he said gently. "Worried about how my job will affect our family." Y/N couldn't hold back her tears any longer. "I'm terrified. I can't raise this baby alone, always wondering if you'll come back. I love you more than anything, but I have to protect our child. I can't do this." Taehyung's eyes widened in fear as he realized what she was saying. Y/N, no. Please, don't say that. Don't do this. We can figure something out. I'll talk to my boss, I'll transfer to a safer position, anything.
Just don't leave
shook
me.
her head, her tears falling freely now. "I'm sorry, Tae. I can't take that chance. I have to think about our baby." Desperation clawed at Taehyung's heart as he saw the determination in her eyes. He reached out, grabbing her hands tightly. "Please, Y/N, don't do this. I'll quit, I'll walk away from it all. Just stay with me. I can't live without you." As she turned to leave, Taehyung's world collapsed around him. The woman he loved, the mother of his child, was walking out of his life, and he felt powerless to stop her. Panic surged through him, and before he knew what he was doing, he lunged for the knife he kept on the kitchen counter. "Taehyung, no." Y/N screamed, spinning around just in time to see him press the blade to his wrist. She rushed toward him, her heart pounding in terror. "Please, don't do this. Please." Taehyung's hand shook as he held the knife, his eyes wild with pain and despair. "If you leave, I have nothing left to live for," he choked out, his voice trembling. I love you, Y/N. I can't do this without you. I don't want to live without you. Y/N's heart shattered at the sight of him, her love for him overwhelming every fear she had. She reached out, her hands trembling as she gently pried the knife from his grip. Tae, please, don't hurt yourself. I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. Just put the knife down, okay? Taehyung's eyes locked onto hers, searching for any sign that she was lying. But all he saw was the love they had shared for so long, the love that had been the foundation of their lives. Slowly, he let the knife slip from his fingers, and it clattered to the floor. He collapsed into Y/N's arms, sobbing uncontrollably as she held him tight. I'm sorry, he whispered over and over again. I'm so sorry, Y/N. Y/N held him close, her tears mixing with his as they clung to each other. It's okay, Tae. I'm here. We'll figure this out together. They stayed like that for what felt like hours, holding each other as the storm of emotions slowly subsided. Finally, Y/N pulled back slightly, wiping the tears from his face. We're going to be okay, she said softly. We'll find a way to make this work. I love you, Taehyung. I never stopped. Taehyung nodded, his voice raw with emotion. I love you too, Y/N. More than anything in this world. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you and our baby safe. I promise. Y/N smiled, a small, hopeful smile that lit up her tear-streaked face. Then let's start over. Together. The days that followed were some of the hardest Y/N and Taehyung had ever faced. The fear and uncertainty that had plagued Y/N still lingered, but Taehyung's unwavering determination to make things right gave her hope. He had kept his word and left his dangerous job, trading the thrill of covert operations for a safer position within the organization, a role that allowed him to come home every night to his family. But even as they tried to move forward, the scars of their past decisions and near-tragic events still weighed heavily on their hearts. Taehyung struggled with guilt over his desperate actions, while Y/N wrestled with the fear that had driven her to leave in the first place. They both knew that if they were to build a life together, they had to confront these fears head-on. One evening, after putting their daughter Era to bed, Y/N found Taehyung sitting alone on the couch, staring blankly at the television. She could see the tension in his posture, the worry etched into his features. Taking a deep breath, she walked over and sat beside him, reaching for his hand. Tae, she began softly, her voice filled with concern. Talk to me. I know you're still hurting. Taehyung's grip tightened around her hand, and he sighed deeply. I can't stop thinking about what I almost did. How close I came to losing everything because I was too scared to let you go. Y/N's heart ached at his words. She leaned her head against his shoulder, her voice gentle. You were desperate, Tae. I understand that now. I was so scared too, and I thought leaving was the only way to protect our baby. But I see now that I should have trusted you, that we should have faced our fears together. Taehyung turned to her, his eyes filled with pain and regret. I almost lost you, Y/N. I almost lost everything. How do we move past that? Y/N looked into his eyes, seeing the depth of his love and the weight of his guilt. She knew that they couldn't change what had happened, but they could choose to move forward, to heal together. We forgive each other, Tae, she said softly. And we forgive ourselves. What we went through was terrifying, but it doesn't have to define us. We've been given a second chance, and I want to make the most of it.